In 1855, an entire English county woke up to a single line of footprints in the snow. They ran for 100 miles. They crossed locked gardens, climbed over rooftops, and walked straight up the side of houses, and whatever made them only had 2 feet. That is not even the strangest story in this video. Stay with me, because the last one was created by people who knew it was fake, and it answered them anyway. There is a particular kind of story that stays with you, not the made-up ones, the real ones. The cases that actually happened, that were written down, investigated, and witnessed by hundreds of people, and still have no explanation anyone can agree on. A cold case from a city that has never caught its culprit. A ship found drifting in the open ocean with everyone aboard gone. A medical mystery that killed dozens of people in the street. An event so strange that an entire county armed itself overnight. And an experiment where the people involved knew the ghost was fake, and it answered them anyway. So keep the lights on, because at least one of these is going to keep you up tonight. The morning of the 9th of February, 1855. Heavy snow had fallen across Devon overnight. When people opened their doors, they found the tracks already there. Cloven, hoof-shaped, about 4 inches long, and here is the part nobody could explain. They ran in a single, unbroken line. Not the scatter of an animal foraging, one foot placed directly in front of the other, for mile after mile, as if something had walked upright on 2 hooves through the dark. The prints did not go around obstacles, they went over them. Over 12-foot walls, across rooftops, up to the mouth of a drainpipe and out the other side, through gardens locked from the inside. Hundreds of witnesses across dozens of villages reported the same thing on the same night. Locals loaded shotguns and refused to leave their homes. The newspapers called it the work of the devil. Scientists have spent over a century trying to explain it. Badgers, mice, an escaped kangaroo, a weather balloon trailing a rope. Every theory falls apart on the same detail. Nothing they suggest can climb a wall, cross a roof, and come down the other side in a perfectly straight line. To this day, no one has a single explanation that fits. At least those footprints had something that made them. The next story has no one at all. The 4th of December, 1872. A ship called the Dei Gratia is crossing the Atlantic when the crew spot another vessel ahead, drifting strangely, sails set but moving with no purpose. They pull alongside and call out. No answer. So they board her. The ship was the Mary Celeste, and she was completely empty. There was no one aboard. Not a single soul. The captain, Benjamin Briggs, his wife, their 2-year-old daughter, and a crew of 7. All gone. But here is what makes it impossible. The ship was in good condition. She was still seaworthy. There was 6 months of food and fresh water in the hold. The cargo, over 1,700 barrels of alcohol, was almost entirely untouched. Inside, it was worse. The crew's personal belongings were still there. Their clothing, their pipes, their valuables, left behind. There was food laid out. The last log entry had been written days earlier and showed nothing wrong. There was no sign of a struggle, no blood, no damage, no bodies, then or ever. The only thing missing was the lifeboat. As if, for some reason no one has ever worked out, everyone aboard chose to abandon a perfectly safe ship in the middle of the ocean and row out into nothing. Theories have been argued for over 150 years. Fear of an explosion from the alcohol fumes, a freak waterspout, a seaquake, piracy, mutiny. None of them fit all the evidence. The crew of the Mary Celeste walked off a working ship into the Atlantic and were never seen again. Whatever happened to them happened in silence, far out at sea. The next story happened on live television, in front of an entire city. The 22nd of November, 1987. Chicago. A man is watching the evening news when the screen flickers, drops out, and someone else takes over the broadcast. A figure appears, wearing a plastic mask of Max Headroom, the computer-generated TV character from the 80s. The background behind him sways back and forth. His voice is distorted into a garbled, electronic moan. For a few seconds, this hijacked signal is going out to the entire city, and the station cannot stop it. It happened twice that night. The second intrusion cut into a Doctor Who broadcast and ran for almost 90 seconds. The figure rambles, laughs, holds up objects, and ends the broadcast in a way so bizarre and unsettling that people who saw it live still describe it as the creepiest thing they have ever watched on television. Then the signal cut back to normal programming, as if nothing had happened. Hijacking a broadcast signal like that takes serious equipment and serious technical skill. The investigation that followed pulled in engineers, broadcasters, and the authorities, all of them trying to trace it. They never found him. Almost 40 years later, no one has ever been identified, arrested, or come forward. Someone took over a major city's airwaves, terrified thousands of people, and simply vanished. The next story killed people. and the cause is still argued about today. Strasbourg, July 1518. A woman stepped into the street and began to dance. No music, no reason. She just danced. She did not stop. She danced through the day, into the night, and was still dancing the next morning. Within a week, dozens of people had joined her. Within a month, the number reached around 400, an entire crowd, dancing in the streets, unable to stop. And here is the horror of it. They did not want to. Witnesses described looks of terror on their faces. They screamed for help while their bodies kept moving. Their feet were bleeding, and some of them danced until their hearts gave out. People dropped dead from strokes, heart attacks, and sheer exhaustion. The town leaders made it worse. Convinced the cure was more dancing, they hired musicians and cleared halls for the afflicted to dance in. More people died. Historians still debate the cause: a poisonous mold on damp grain that causes hallucinations and convulsions, or a kind of stress and fear so contagious it spread through a whole population. The records are real, the deaths were real, the trigger has never been confirmed, which brings us to the last story, because this one was not found. It was built, on purpose, by people who wanted to prove that ghosts are not real. A group of researchers in Toronto set out to test a theory. Could a group of ordinary people create a ghost out of nothing but their own minds? So they invented one. They named him Philip. They wrote him a complete life story. A 17th century aristocrat, a doomed love affair, a tragic death. None of it was real. They knew none of it was real. That was the entire point. Then they sat around a table and tried to contact him. For months, nothing. Until one day, the table moved. They started asking Philip questions, and he answered. Knocks on the table. 1 for yes, 2 for no. The answers matched the fake backstory they had written. The table slid across the room. It tilted. Witnesses said it rapped along to music. The temperature in the room changed. They had made him up, every detail, and something was answering to his name and to the lie they had invented for him. The researchers concluded that the group had somehow projected it all themselves through pure collective belief, which, if you think about it, is not comforting at all. It means a room full of people, focused hard enough on something that does not exist, can make it real enough to knock back. So here is the question I will leave you with. The footprints, the empty ship, the broadcast, the dancing. We assume something out there caused them. But what if some of it was us? What if belief is the thing doing the haunting? If you want the one I could not fit into this video, the figure people kept seeing in the snow that you should never, ever wave back at, it is in the next one. Watch it before you decide you do not believe any of this.